Hello and welcome to the next session for the Student Undergraduate Research Experience. My name is Merle Massey. I'm the coordinator of undergraduate research initiatives at the University of Saskatchewan, and we're really excited. Today we have a special guest. This is Jeremy Lang, who is a Saskatchewan boy who came along and developed a really amazing company that is called Pela. And Jeremy, actually, I'm going to pass it right over to you. If you have more of an introduction that you'd like to give, I hate to give an introduction on your behalf. There might be something about you that you want to say about yourself that I don't necessarily know about. I always tell people that I like to watch the clouds, but people who know that I'm a farmer would know that that's something I do all the time. But please, over to you, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Great, thank you. Well, thank you for having me. Excited to present, and I think it's just great, this program in general. I was just saying, I wish we had that when I was in university. So I am a U of S grad student. I Bachelor of Science in Agriculture, finished in 2000. So soil science was my major and environmental science was my minor. And today I just want to talk a little bit about Pela, and I'll kind of tell the story of Pela. And I want us to think about a few things. Like, first of all, I just wanted to say that I don't have everything figured out, and it's always easier to connect the dots looking back. But one of the things, as we go through this, I want to highlight the obstacles that kind of came up along the way, and then how we leaned into those obstacles and changed things, and saw them as an opportunity, and just how I believe business can be used as a force of good. And it doesn't necessarily mean starting your own business. It could be working for a company who you admire and who has similar values and really fits with what you believe in and with what you want to accomplish. So I'm going to tell the story of Pela. I did this as a lightning round presentation and it took 7 minutes a while back, but I'm going to slow it down and talk a little bit about it. I think it'll probably take maybe 20 minutes or half an hour, but we'll have lots of time for questions at the end. So I'm going to take you back to the very beginning of time. So when I was 10 years old, so we're driving from Regina to Yorkton, and it was harvest time. And we're in Dad's big old white Buick, and we're floating down the highway, and it was starting to get dark out. And we went to the Capel Valley, and we came over the hill, and you could see all these big balls of fire in the fields. And the reason I remember it is because I was scared. It was like kind of an eerie feeling. I'd never seen that before. So I said, Dad, like, what's going on? And he said, well, the farmers, they're burning their flax straw. Like, they grow it for the oil seed, but the fiber in the straw is so strong that it gets caught up in their equipment, so they burn it. So I said, well, if it's that strong, it must be good for something. And he said, well, maybe when you get older, you can think of something. So it was kind of always in the back of my head, and that's kind of the beginning of Pela. How can we use waste materials, or how can we eliminate waste? So, that just something to keep in mind. The ages of 10 to 12 in your life are kind of some of the most influential times in your life. So it might be things that you love to do or things that have influenced you as you're getting into, if you're starting a business or working on a business or where your career might be headed. Just kind of think about things that maybe resonated with you at that time, because that might be something that's, near and dear to your heart and something that you want to, spend some time working on. So what are we going to do with this flax? Not sure, didn't know. So I started working as an environmental consultant. I'm going to back up a little bit and slow this down. So I Bachelor of Science in Agriculture, always wanted to start my own business, but got my degree, started working as an environmental consultant, and just started climbing the corporate ladder, I guess. Worked for a big consulting firm, and I had a really great job and I was doing really well, but I wasn't happy totally, because something in the back of my head was like, I just always wanted to start a company, and I was just kind of sick of hearing myself talk about that. So I just said, fine, I'm going to start a company, but I didn't know what to name the company or what to do. So I started a company called Open Mind Developments, and it's from a Metallica song. And so the idea was open mind for a different view. So start looking at problems that I want to solve out there. So fast forward, so now this is 2008. So I worked as a consultant for actually 17 years, but 7 years into my career, I started Open Mind Developments. And then after a year of starting to look for things, we were on vacation in Kauai, and we're on this beautiful secluded beach. This is literally the hole we were digging in, playing with my son, who was a year and a half at the time. and there were like little pieces of plastic everywhere, and that really bothered me. I had never seen that before. Like, you know, the beaches in Saskatchewan are pretty much pristine, and I remember feeling sick. Like, who is littering? Like, why would you litter on this beautiful beach? And why do I have to dig in someone else's litter? And why does my son have to dig in someone else's litter? Like, I didn't have to do that growing up, and why does he have to do that? So when we got back, I learned about the where the plastic was coming from, and it was plastic in the ocean and Pacific Gyre washing up on the beach. And I just learned more about plastic in general. What a, you know, it's great, but it's the end of life. The management of plastic does not work. So like every piece of plastic that's ever been made still exists today, and less than, you know, 10% of all plastics actually get recycled. So it just seemed kind of ridiculous and like a big problem to solve. It was wasteful. So that was kind of the, like, why I started looking into how can we solve this problem of plastic. And then I found out about these biopolymers. So in this area here, so bioplastics that can be bio-based, so plant-based, biodegradable, compostable. So it seemed like a great alternative, but they were very brittle. So very limited applications. So they were mostly used for, you know, single-use items. So another problem, well, how can we solve that? Then I remembered the flax straw, the fiber in the straw was strong. So I thought, what if we combine these biopolymers with this flax material, and we can make a material that's stronger and can be applied to more products. So I did, yeah, the R&D at the engineering department there at the U of S. So going back and kind of working and trying different formulas. So that was in 2009 and 2010. Anyway, developed this material, then needed a product. So another problem. Now, what product should we apply this material for? You know, you have all these choices. We can make flip-flops, phone cases, sunglasses, yoga mats, but looked at this problem. So there's over a billion phone cases are sold a year. None of them, well, very few of them are actually recycled, and they all end up in landfill. So really wasteful. That's a big problem. So, you know, the idea that the average person keeps their phone for 2 years, yet the case to protect it will last for hundreds or thousands of years, and, you know, can't be recycled. That just seemed a little bit ridiculous. So that's why I started with phone cases. So it's a really big market, and it seemed like, you know, the phone case was pretty small, and you could ship it. I wanted to start with direct to consumers. So, you know, the problem was couldn't compete with the big brands. So I had to find my audience through, you know, direct to consumer online business. And so phone cases are nice and small too. So the shipping isn't much. So it's easier to put them in mail. And the other neat thing about phone cases is kind of almost everyone has one. And, you know, it's something that, you know, when you set it down, you know, because our case looks a little different, hopefully it starts a conversation. It gets people talking about it and spreads the word about, you know, just gets people thinking about, hey, maybe there are more sustainable alternatives to conventional plastic products. So there it is, July 7th, 2011. That's the very first Pela case. So almost 10 years now. And we just, you know, the last 3 or 4 years is kind of when we really started to grow. But it took a long time to get going. But there's the first Pela case. It was, you know, we got it out there, and the problem was it wasn't a great product. It seemed like a great idea, but it wasn't great. It was still breaking, had to revise the formula and all that stuff. But another important thing to remember is, you know, if you're starting something, if you wait for it to be perfect, like, it's never going to be perfect. So it's always better to get it out there as best you can and then improve on it, take feedback. So they say if you're not embarrassed by your first product, you've waited too long. So it's always something to keep. Don't be afraid to get it out there. It's hard to do, but you know, you get feedback and you improve on that. So that's the obstacles in there. So we just kept improving it, making it softer, better packaging, you know, all that stuff. But the sales, you know, another problem, still flat. So what are we going to do about that, or what am I going to do about that? And so I thought, well, maybe if we, you know, we're environmentally sustainable, so maybe we should be socially sustainable too. So let's give back 1% for the planet. So we started giving back 1% of our revenue to nonprofits that we believed in, like who keep the, you know, like Surfrider and Save the Waves and Oceana, people who keep the beaches clean and that. So, but another problem, the sales were still fairly flat. So this is like getting to be 2015. So 2011, still working as a full-time consultant. Um, and, still picking away at it, but on the evenings and weekends and vacations and early mornings, packing orders, staying up all hours of the night. We were manufacturing them in right in Saskatoon here. So sometimes I'd run over to the manufacturing facility. They'd shut down at like 10, and then I'd run the 10 o'clock at night till 2 in the morning shift, and then get up in the morning. So, but it was a good learning process. Learned how to do it, but still wasn't growing. So I started looking at, maybe it's the man in the mirror, not that man in the mirror, this one. So maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the problem. So why we're not growing? It could, because it was just me at the time. So I started working with a coach and started working on my strengths and weaknesses, and realized that I knew how to make the product, but I didn't know how to market it, and I didn't know how to scale it. So I applied to this entrepreneur event. So that was a big problem, right? I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And then I just realized, hey, I need to ask for help. I need help marketing and scaling. So I applied to this event in 2015, and that's where I met Matt. He's our CEO, and he knows how to market it. He's a marketing guru. He built online businesses and sold his online, business. And I met Brad. He is our chairman now, but he had been in the toy industry for over 20 years, had an exit, but literally sold a billion pieces of plastic products, and wanted to, make change the manufacturing process and show how we can use more sustainable materials. So we joked when we met, like, it's either the story of a farmer and a fisherman and the cowboy. It's either the start of a bad joke or a great story, and it's turning out to be a great story. But just the importance of finding, the right partners, people who complement your skills. You help each other out, the right teammates. I equated a lot to, if you're putting together a hockey team, like, you would never put Wayne Gretzky in net. It's getting people in the right, the right positions, and all believing in a common goal and setting the mission. So, we looked at this. This is a big problem, all this waste in the ocean. So, and started to clarify our vision. So we want to create a waste-free future. So develop products that are environmentally sensible materials, educate and inspire. So, how can we, help people be more sustainable in their lifestyle, and make a product that people actually feel good about. So that's what we were trying to do. But we realized, hey, maybe we're not thinking big enough. So that was a problem. So let's think a lot bigger. So we set a goal of 1 billion pounds. So we set this goal, and it was our 10-year goal. We set it in 2018. So this is a big problem. But we said it, how are we going to eliminate 1 billion pounds of plastic, or 1 billion pounds of waste from the waste stream by 2028? So we started looking around at how to do that. And then we started finding out, like, can customers really trust us with what we're doing? Like, here's a problem. Do they trust us? So we said, well, let's be B Corp certified. Let's really push ourselves and just be better. We always want to push to be better. So we became B Corp certified. And then we'd find, like, there's so much noise out there in greenwashing that some people were thinking we're greenwashing. So, like, that's a problem. So we started looking into other things. So we said, okay, let's do our own testing. And what did I do here? Let's do our own. We have third-party testing. We have testing on the raw materials. Let's do testing of our own and just show what our product looks like when it ends up. So that was a big thing marketing-wise, to help customers see that, yeah, this product really does biodegrade. Here's what it looks like after, 6 weeks, 12 weeks, 18 weeks in a compost facility. And then we had the problem, like, not everyone has home compost. So we have this compostable product, which is great, but not everyone has home compost, and not everyone has industrial compost. So here we go. That's another big problem. What are we going to do about it? Well, we started the responsibility economy. So we started thinking about it. Well, what if we took responsibility for our products from cradle to grave? If people, don't have an end of life offer, we'll take it back. So we started this Pela 360 program. So online orders, when customers get their order, we have separate mailers. When you're done with their old case, they can send it back to us, and then we grind it up and we turn it into second generation products. And then so that was great. But what about retail? So we decided to do that in retail as well. So here you have the 1-for-1. This is in Best Buy. Just different programs that really help people with the end of life. So another problem that we kind of turned into a solution. And then people would start to say, the biggest thing we get is, what what am I going to do with my own case? Like, so someone would buy a Pela case and they say, what do I do with my old case? And we're like, yeah, that's a great question. We know where it's going to end up. It's going to go to the landfill. So we thought, you know what? Let's take that back. So this is the reborn collection that I talked about. We sell it, but we also take back conventional cases. So this is our cases that we take back. We grind them up and turn them into new products and sell them again. And then the conventional plastic cases, we take those back too, so they don't end up in landfill, and we turn them into, like, create awareness. This is an artist who made just, a little sculpture, I guess, of, cases in the plastic in the ocean kind of thing. So just create awareness, and we find another way to, we make sure those products get turned into something else. So we're still in the process of collecting them, but we'll, turn them into a chair. So um, anyway, so then we looked at our carbon footprint. Here's another problem. So you have a sustainable product, but is it really more sustainable? Well, let's measure. So we measured our carbon footprint to figure out, what is our manufacturing footprint, shipping, everything, end of life for the phone cases, how are we doing? And then, so that was a problem. And then we realized, a big part of our footprint is routes. So what can we do about that? So we started adding distribution centers. So we manufacture in Kelowna and we manufacture in China. And we only used to have distribution centers in the United States. So the ones that we make in China, we have a raw material here, we ship it to China, make the cases, ship them back to the US, take the orders, ship them to Europe. Like, that's just, right? That's a problem. That's wasteful. So we're like, well, let's open up more distribution centers. Let's increase our manufacturing in Kelowna. So, our Kelowna ones can kind of handle mostly our North America orders, and our China ones can handle the European and the rest of the world. So that was a problem that we turned into an opportunity. And then we're always getting questioned. Well, yeah, is it really better? Your carbon footprint, like, how does it compare to conventional products? And we're like, yeah, that's a great point. Let's check it out. So we did a third party to compare our phone cases to conventional plastic, and our cases are 25% less carbon, 35% less water, and 70% less waste. So now we can provide, when retailers order, and we're telling them that it's more sustainable, we can show them, like, here's how it's more sustainable, and it helps you with your environmental footprint, and it helps you be more sustainable. So that was a neat thing. And then customers, like I said, we added on to it. We added this in the calculator, like, what does it look like? So, this case would be like the equivalent of 81 plastic bags, like conventional plastic bags. So how can we help you replace, conventional plastic by purchasing our products? And these are the reports that we would put together for our retailers to show them how much they've saved by switching to Pela. And then we found out that, hey, we still have carbon emissions. How do we be even better? This is still a problem. So we joined climate neutral. So we measured our footprint, and then we offset it. So we buy carbon credits. So we help, promote forests and plant trees and help make landfills more sustainable by capturing methane. And so then you think about, well, these are just small changes. Do they really add up? Well, we've sold over 1 million products to date, and that's equivalent to over 500,000 pounds of plastic. So that's a big number. Like, we've replaced conventional plastic with more sustainable materials that we use, but we want to get to 1 billion. So that's a long way off. So how are we going to get there? But we'll keep working on that. But the other neat thing, because we joined 1% for the Planet years ago, so on the social side of it, it was a problem to try and be more sustainable, so socially sustainable. We've now donated over $500,000 to 1% for the Planet, and to MedShare, and support and feed over 40,000. Meet a We, this was a neat one. We did a project with them in Kenya. 30,000 people got access to clean water for a year through donating to them. So Save the Waves, there's how much beaches we've helped to clean and protect, and Surfrider Foundation. So when I say, I almost look at it as business as a force of good. If you find, the right mission, I almost think of the Pela case as almost a vehicle for, like, if you just kind of shift the way of thinking, this is a vehicle for giving to nonprofits. So by buying this, you're actually supporting nonprofits. So it's just a different way of thinking about things, but it's really amazing to see how things can add up over the years as we go there. So So we kept going, but there's still this. How are we going to get to 1 billion pounds? Like that's a lot. We've done 500,000 pounds so far. We want to do 1 billion pounds a year. So how are we going to get there? We started looking again, getting back to the origin, open mind for a different view. So start looking at, you know, bigger problems or bigger solutions. And we found out that food waste is one of the most wasteful things. So over 8% of all greenhouse gas emissions is from food waste rotting in landfill. And and it's something like, I want to say 20% of materials in landfill are food waste. And when you think about how wasteful that is, so like, for example, let's take a banana. The banana comes off the tree, you eat the banana. The peel is meant to go back into the earth so it can fertilize it and create more soil and help feed the banana tree to create more. But we take all these things and we do the worst thing for it. We put it in a landfill where it rots and creates methane. So that's a big problem. Um, so we looked at, Tara talked about what percentage of the world, the greenhouse gas emissions is 8%, or 7%. That's a big number. That's a big problem to solve. So we're at this point in time where we have these major problems. So consumer products, they end up in landfills and there's leakage and some of them end up in their oceans. We have this waste management infrastructure that's it's outdated and it's not really working. So like one is like uh, recycling, like less than 10% actually gets recycling. That's not a very good number. Like we've been just like, that needs to be fixed. I think we can do better than 10%. And then, food waste being hauled to landfill, that's so ridiculous. And then it's climate change. So there are all these major things that we can do. And what's neat about Lomi is that, we're showing, um, so now we have an infrastructure problem. And so we created Lomi. So Lomi does two things. So one, it takes care of food waste. So your food waste isn't going to landfill. So you can put it into Lomi and you can turn it into compost. And, it breaks down your food. You don't have the wet, messy bags. And, it also takes bioplastics. So I'll get into that a little bit later. But so we did a Indiegogo campaign. We just closed it. So it ended up being, this is one of the largest tech, environmentally, eco environmental tech projects crowdfunded, I think, ever. So it just shows the support of people who want to make a difference in the world and they don't want to throw their food waste in the garbage. They want to actually, make something out of it. The other neat thing about Lomi, so you're not by preventing food waste from going to landfill and rotting, you're preventing greenhouse gas emissions. And the other cool part is, like I said, nature hasn't figured out about the banana peel going back. You can turn that food waste, into compost, which creates healthy soil, and healthy soil actually helps to store carbon as well. And then remember, we talked about not everyone has, these green bins to collect it. Not everyone has home compost bins. Well, we've been testing, our products, our compostable bioplastic products, and other ones, and they work in Lomi as well. So now we've just provided another end of life option for those ones. So it turns out that, like, little things add up. If we sold 10 million Lomis, that's equivalent to like planting 100 million trees. And that's about 3.5 billion pounds less garbage generated every year. Because the average person, it's like, I think it's 350 pounds of food waste per year, I think is what the average family puts into landfill. So that's just kind of getting back to the 1 billion pounds and setting that as a big problem and then working to solutions. That's kind of what our next goal is. And that's kind of it. Sorry for talking so long, but I just wanted to give an idea. But I just wanted to say, we do not have it figured out. Every day is a learning thing. But if you start to shift your mindset of whenever there's a problem, maybe this is an opportunity, and maybe that's the feedback we need to be better. And so just thinking about your obstacles as opportunities. And that's kind of all I had, but I'd love to hear more, if you have any more questions or anything.
That was fantastic. So I've been busy on the back end. It's like, okay, here's how to find Pela. Okay, here's Lomi. And I'm like, oh, when do I get one? So
Soon, soon.
awesome. Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, this is going to be one of those really weird questions, but I live in rural Saskatchewan, and we bought our house 18 whatever years ago, and there's a
Yep.
carburetor in my sink, which seems
Mm.
like a good idea.
Hmm.
Why should people not use their carburetor and instead buy a Lomi?
Yeah. Well, it's the same idea. So that you're taking that food waste or those plant nutrients and basically put them down the drain
Yeah.
where they could instead be used for like to turn them into compost and used for fertilizer. So when you think about like regenerative ag and how that's really taking off and improving topsoil health, anything we can do that helps increase the organic carbon content and add nutrients to the soil, that's a really big win. And the other neat part about it, I don't know if you've ever watched this, Kiss the Ground. It's a documentary on Netflix. It just talks about how agriculture, I think they say we only have 60 harvests left because we've just stripped and like overproduced the topsoil. And by pulling everything off, keep taking it off and not letting the plants go back in and, keep that, uh, organic carbon content elevated, we're basically just stripping the soil till there's nothing left of it. So anything we can do to help put things back on the soil, like where they're supposed to go, it also helps store carbon. So I think soil, I want to say it's 200 times more effective at pulling carbon out of the atmosphere than trees. So it's really important resource. And it's neat to see how with Lomi, food waste is a big thing, but it's also which, will help stop trucks from going to landfill, being hauled, like just if if we can, our next version of Lomi is going to have be IoT enabled. So if we can have a Lomi in, let's say, the city of Saskatoon, and in real time know how much food does not have to go to landfill based on waste, and you can say, actually, you don't have to send trucks to this location now. It saves energy, it saves trucks on the road, it saves landfill filling up. So really exciting stuff.
Greg, you have a question. Hang
Great,
on, we
working
can't
on
hear
mute.
you.
There you go.
There
Sorry,
you are.
howdy. It was a fantastic presentation, Jeremy. And I
Thank
have
you.
to say, I was excited when I saw you were presenting because I've been using your phone cases for years now.
Awesome.
And
Thank you.
yeah, no, well, they're they are an excellent product. And then the sustainability. So I often go into government meetings just with my work and that. And then I deliberately put the phone case on, and someone will ask a question, then I tell the story and why
Awesome.
this is so important. But so I actually had well, one kudos, and I love telling the Saskatchewan story and how you can actually do something solving these kind of practical problems that have such a significance. And I think the way you laid it out, and one of my mottos I always like to say is embrace imperfection. And I think you made that case very powerfully. So I have a brutally practical question.
Yeah.
So it's so when I'm looking at the cases and we talk about flaxstick, and so what is it really when I look at the case and I see, I can see organic matter in it. What is the whole case about?
Yeah, for sure. So it's actually, so we started with the flax fiber and then we ended up switching to the flax shive. So what you're actually seeing is
Okay,
the shive. So the
okay,
shive is actually a byproduct of the fiber processing industry. So one of the biggest things that flax fiber is used for here on the prairies is for cigarette paper or
okay,
high-end papers. So
okay,
they take the bales of flax, they process it, they get the fiber out, and what's left over is the shive. So we're actually using a byproduct of a byproduct, and it helps. Well, a few things. One, it helps with shock absorption. So it's almost like a cork material. It has a very high aspect ratio, so it bonds really well with the biopolymers that we use. The aesthetics, which you've talked about, that's like
yeah,
huge. If it's going to be eco-friendly, it should look eco-friendly to help tell the story. And it also, we've done some tests. It helps to improve it helps it to compost more quickly or biodegrade more
gotcha.
quickly because kind of opens up channels for like the microorganisms to get in there and
Gotcha.
feed on it. So yeah, that's kind of what we do, and we work with kind of what's the state of the art of the biopolymer industry that's out there, and then our IP is how we add this flax material to it to create our flax stick product, and then all our testing and end of life and telling the story. That's kind of those are our strengths, I would say.
Knowing it's just wonderful taking the time with us to share that story. I'm glad, and Merle, thanks for organizing this. I think it's such a great story, and in where business in free enterprise in the market system can actually address in very creative, innovative ways. And kudos. So keep doing what
Yeah.
you guys are doing.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thanks for your support. And you just hit on one thing that I want to say. It's the greatest. Remember, I said we had to reach our audience. Like, it's the greatest time in history if you have a product or an idea or want to, like, you can reach that audience. In the past, there were gatekeepers. You had to be
Right.
Coca-Cola to pay billions of dollars to get in front of people. You can find there's an art. It's Kevin Kelly has an article. It's called "1,000 True Fans." But if you can find 1,000 people who believe in what you're doing and sell them $100 worth a year, that's $100,000, and it can add up. I mean, if you want to grow it, but that word of mouth spreads. But you can find the barriers to entry are so much less now than they used to be. So you can find that audience and you can really make a difference. And I really believe in that. So it's really cool. And when I think about one of the things that I didn't realize would be so rewarding about having a sustainable business or a mission focused or a purpose focused business is the people, the customers who we meet, the partners who we're working with, the retailers around the world who have similar values. Like, it's almost like them. That's one of the neatest things. You can talk to people from all over the world, and we all have this in common. Like, we care about leaving the earth better for future generations, and so it gets back to finding your audience or finding your group of people, like-minded people, which is just really powerful stuff. So
No, thank you. You couldn't pay enough. This is very kind what you've shared with us today.
yeah, you bet. Happy to be here.
And we're delighted to have you. I'm going to actually stop the recording simply because we want to make sure if anyone has any other questions that they want to bring forward, but don't want to aren't as brave as Greg, to to make themselves known. But after that, yeah.